Hey there, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that's really about building a better, greener future, quite literally. We're diving into the world of LEED AP Homes certification. Now, you've probably heard of LEED leadership in energy and environmental design. It's kind of the gold standard, right? But specifically for homes, now, what does that actually mean, on a practical level? What are the real nitty-gritty elements that make a house truly sustainable? So our mission today is to uncover some of the most important bits of knowledge about what makes a high-performing, environmentally friendly home. We'll do this by looking at some key challenges, some core principles that often come up in the LEED AP Homes certification process. Think of it less like a test, maybe, and more like, well, a series of really interesting insights that show the philosophy behind green home building.
Exactly. And what's really compelling, I think, is how these specific points reveal the foundational principles, the core ideas of sustainable home building. We'll explore everything from the integrated design process, getting everyone on the same page right from the start, to how we manage construction waste, save water, and even, crucially, improve the air quality inside our homes. These aren't just like abstract ideas. They're practical, impactful strategies for creating healthier, more efficient places to live.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a stack of insights covering key areas like the LE process, integrated strategies, location and transportation, sustainable sites, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources, and indoor environmental quality. So get ready to really understand what goes into building green, inside and out. Okay, let's unpack this. Chapter 1, the foundation. Verification and integrated design. All right, so to kick us off, let's talk about accountability. It's one thing to say a home is green, right? But how do we actually know? How do we know it meets those tough LEE standards? Who's the referee in all this?
That's where the home energy rater comes in. They are that absolutely essential third-party professional. They're totally independent, from the design team, from the builders. And their main job, it's verification, on-site inspections, performance testing.
Performance testing. Like the blower door test? I've heard of that.
Exactly, the famous blower door test.
Okay, so for people who haven't seen one, what does the rater actually do with that thing? And why is having that third-party person so critical? For trust, I guess, and making sure it actually works in the real world.
Oh, it's incredibly important. So the blower door test, it basically depressurizes the house. It sucks air out, essentially. And by doing that, it reveals exactly where air is leaking in or out. It's like a big fan mounted in a doorway frame, creating this pressure difference that just highlights all the little gaps and cracks.
Okay, so it exaggerates the leaks you wouldn't normally notice.
Precisely. And this allows the rater to pinpoint those problem areas. Now, why is it so crucial? Well, it provides that objective assessment. It makes sure that all the good intentions in the design, all those energy-saving features, actually translate into real-world performance. Without that independent check, a green home could just be, well, greenwash.
Yeah.
Right. Making claims it doesn't live up to. It builds trust, ensures real impact.
That makes total sense. You really do need to measure it. Okay, but speaking of the design itself, it's not just about checking things afterwards.
Yeah.
How do all the different people involved in a project, architect, builder, engineer, they often have different priorities. How do they come together to build green right from the start? It feels like it could get complicated fast.
It absolutely can, yeah. But there's a really critical early step that makes a huge difference. It's the integrated design process, and it often kicks off with something called a charrette.
A charrette. Okay, fancy word. What is that exactly?
It's not just any meeting. It's more like an intensive collaborative workshop. And crucially, it happens very early in the project. It brings together all the key stakeholders: the architect, builder, engineers, maybe the landscape designer, even the homeowner sometimes.
Right, so everyone's in the room from day one, like a big brainstorming session before things get too far down the road.
Exactly.
But why is that so fundamental? Why
Yeah.
get everyone there at the very beginning? Doesn't that just add more time up front?
Well, it might seem like it, but it actually prevents complexity and costly changes later on. If you think about the bigger picture, this integrated approach, starting with that charrette, it's really foundational. It stops that siloed thinking, where the architect designs a beautiful big window, but doesn't realize the HVAC engineer will then struggle to cool that space efficiently. Or the materials person doesn't think about indoor air quality.
Okay, so everyone hears the challenges and opportunities together.
Precisely. It fosters shared goals right from the start. Sustainability isn't an afterthought or some add-on. It gets woven into every single decision. And this collective problem solving, it often leads to more innovative, more cost-effective solutions than if everyone just worked alone and then tried to patch things together later. It kind of builds a shared vision for that specific green project.
2. Smart choices for a thirsty world. Water efficiency.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Water efficiency, huge part of sustainable living, especially, well, everywhere it seems these days. We often think about low-flow shower heads, efficient toilets, that sort of thing, inside the house, which are great, obviously.
Right.
What about outside? Landscaping? That can use a ton of water, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's often the single biggest water user for a home. Surprisingly large amount. And that's why LEDD really emphasizes smart outdoor water use reduction.
Okay, so if project team wants to get points for cutting down outdoor water use, what's a really simple but super effective strategy they could use? Something maybe beyond just fancy irrigation systems. Well, probably the most impactful and maybe sometimes overlooked strategy is simply using native and adaptive plant species, covering, say, at least 75% of the landscaped area with plants that belong there naturally.
Native and adaptive plants.
Okay.
So plants that are naturally suited to the local climate.
Exactly. And what's really insightful here is how this simple choice has this ripple effect. It's not just about saving tap water because they need less irrigation. It also cuts down the energy used for pumping and treating that water. It minimizes storm runoff, which can carry pollutants. And importantly, it supports local biodiversity, provides habitat.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just planting something, it's planting the right thing for that place, almost like working with the local environment instead of against it.
That's a great way to put it, working with nature. These plants are perfectly suited. They thrive with minimal help, less water, less fertilizer, fewer pesticides. It's just a much more holistic approach that taps into the ecological wisdom of the region. It's a big win for water conservation, definitely,
Yeah.
and for a healthier yard. 3, powering up and sealing tight. Energy and atmosphere.
All right. Energy. This is central, obviously, to a home's footprint. Consumption, production. Both sides. Now, when we think about homes generating their own clean power, solar panels usually jump to mind first, PV panels. But what's another key strategy? Something for the energy and atmosphere credit for on-site renewables that maybe is a bit less obvious, but still really effective.
Right, PV is fantastic for electricity. But for many homes, installing a solar water heater is actually a highly effective and often quite cost-efficient way to generate renewable energy right there on set.
A solar water heater. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. We use hot water constantly every day. So this isn't about powering the lights. It's specifically tackling that big energy demand for hot water. Why is it such a good fit for this credit?
It's excellent because it directly targets one of the most consistent energy loads in pretty much any home. Heating water for showers, dishes, laundry. A solar water heater uses the sun's energy to either preheat or fully heat your water, so it significantly cuts down the work your conventional water heater has to do, whether that's gas or electric. This LEED credit rewards projects that produce renewable energy on-site, and these systems do exactly that very directly and efficiently. Often they have a faster payback than maybe a bigger whole house PV system, too. It's a really tangible, immediate energy reduction.
Yeah, very practical. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Generating energy is great, but stopping waste is just as crucial, maybe even more so, right? Think about drafts, leaks in your own home, those invisible energy drains. So if that home energy rater we talked about earlier comes in with their blower door test and finds a high air leakage rate, it's the single most effective thing to do is just piling on more insulation, new windows maybe.
Or something else. This is such a critical point, and yeah, it's often misunderstood. While insulation and good windows are definitely beneficial, the most effective strategy, the first thing you should do for high air leakage, is to find and actually seal those leaks. Seal them up at the joints where pipes or wires go through the walls around windows and doors. Seal the envelope.
Okay, so attack the source of the air movement itself, not just try to buffer against it. Why is sealing prioritized over just adding more insulation? It feels like more insulation should always help, right?
Well, it's kind of like the difference between treating a symptom and curing the disease, you know?
Right.
Insulation works by slowing down heat transfer through the solid parts of the building, the walls, the roof. But air leaks, they're like actual holes. Conditioned air, the air you paid to heat or cool, just escapes right through them. It bypasses the insulation completely. Imagine trying to keep water in a leaky bucket just by making the bucket walls thicker. It won't work if the holes are still there.
You got to plug the holes first.
Exactly. You have to plug the holes. Sealing the building envelope, making it airtight, is the absolute foundation for an efficient building. It makes sure the air stays where it belongs. It lets your insulation do its job properly. And it actually makes all those other energy-saving measures, like that solar water heater, work much, much better. It's about creating a really tight, high-performance shell. 4, building smart. materials and resources.
Okay, let's switch to the actual stuff our homes are made of and what happens to all the leftovers during construction.
Yeah.
Construction waste is just staggering. So waste management is huge in green building, maybe often overlooked, but really impactful.
Yeah.
In the materials and resources category, how can a project team go beyond just, say, basic recycling to directly earn a point for construction waste management?
Yeah, this is where we start thinking more about a circular economy for building materials. A measure that directly earns that point is donating at least 1/3 of the salvaged materials usable stuff to a local charity or nonprofit.
Donating. That's fantastic. So it's not just keeping it out of the landfill, it's giving it a second life and actually helping the community.
Yeah.
What's the deeper significance there? Why donation over just sending it off to some big recycling facility?
Well, it's about really recognizing the value still locked in those materials, the embedded energy, the resources, every piece of lumber, every door, every light fixture. It took energy and resources to make it and get it there. By donating usable materials, you're stopping them from becoming waste, yes,
Hmm.
but you're also reducing the need to make new stuff from scratch. And you're providing valuable materials to organizations that can really use them, often for things like affordable housing or community projects. It's like a triple win, you know? Environmental, economic, and social. It really shifts the thinking from just waste disposal to resource recovery.
That's a great perspective. Resource recovery. Okay, building on that idea of a second life, what about using materials that have already had a life somewhere else? Specifically for a gut rehab project where you're taking an old building down to the studs, what counts as a reclaimed material for the materials and resources credit?
Right. For a gut rehab, a perfect example of a reclaimed material would be, say, wood framing, maybe
Ah,
from a nearby building that was carefully deconstructed, not just demolished. And then that wood is reused right there on the new project site.
okay, so not just recycled content, but actively reclaimed and often reused pretty much as it was.
Mhm.
What's the difference between reclaimed and recycled, and why does LED value reclaimed stuff so highly?
That's a good question. So, recycled materials, they're typically broken down first, right? Then remanufactured into something new. Think plastic bottles becoming decking material. Reclaimed materials, though, are salvaged from old structures and reused more or less in their existing form, maybe with just minimal processing. Like those old wood beams, they could become new structural parts or maybe beautiful exposed beams or flooring. Letty really values reclaimed materials because they completely bypass that energy-intensive manufacturing process needed for new products and even for a lot of recycled ones. It drastically cuts the demand for virgin resources, and honestly, it often adds incredible character and history to a building. It's a really efficient way to handle materials.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, beyond reclaiming old stuff,
Right.
what about new products? How does LED decide if a new product is environmentally preferable? It feels like everything has some kind of green label now. How does LED cut through the noise and ensure it's actually better?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, avoiding the greenwashing. So in the materials and resources category, to get that point for environmentally preferable products, or EPPs, a project generally has to meet more than 2 of the specific criteria listed under option 2. It's not enough for a product to just have one green feature. It needs multiple.
Ah, okay, so you can't just say, oh, this is recycled content. You need to check multiple boxes, show a broader commitment. What kinds of criteria are we talking about?
Exactly. It forces manufacturers to think more holistically. The criteria might include things like, yes, a high percentage of recycled content, or being rapidly renewable, like bamboo or cork, or being FSC certified, which is about responsible forestry, or being low emitting, meaning it doesn't release harmful chemicals into the air. The key thing here is that this environmentally preferable label is about looking at the product's whole life cycle, its different impacts, not just one single thing. This multi-criteria approach really pushes the industry towards developing products that are genuinely more sustainable, not just less bad, but actually better for the planet and, importantly, for us living inside the house. 5. Breathe easy. Indoor environmental quality.
Okay, so we've talked energy, water, materials, things you might expect. But green building isn't just about the outside world or the energy bill, right? What about the air we actually breathe inside our homes? Sometimes, maybe often, indoor air quality can be worse than outdoor air. This feels like a huge, maybe overlooked part of a healthy home.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's often called a silent problem because you can't always see it or smell it, but it has a profound impact on our health, our well-being, every single day. We spend, like 90% of our time indoors, so the quality of that indoor environment is just paramount.
Yeah, 90%. Wow. So when it comes to making that indoor air better, what's a really fundamental example of a low-emitting material? Something common that directly helps with the indoor environmental quality credit?
A prime example, and one that makes a big difference pretty quickly, is using low VOC paint on interior walls. And what's fascinating, or maybe a bit scary, is the direct health impact. VOC's volatile organic compounds, these are gases emitted from certain solids or liquids. They can off-gas from paints, adhesives, flooring, furniture, sometimes for years after installation, and they can affect respiratory health, cause headaches, just generally impact how you feel.
For years,
Uh,
yeah, that's a sobering thought. So choosing low VOC isn't just a nice to have, it's really a core choice for the occupant's long-term health.
yeah.
Are there other common things that release VOCs people might not even think about?
Definitely. Beyond paints, you find them in certain adhesives, sealants, flooring materials, especially composite wood products like particle board, even some cleaning supplies. The cumulative effect, from all these different sources can really add up and create an unhealthy indoor space. LED pushes for low-emitting materials across the board, paints, adhesives, flooring, insulation, etc., because it's a relatively simple but really powerful way to create a healthier, more comfortable place to live. It contributes directly to a truly green home that benefits the people inside it day in and day out. It's about being proactive for health. 6. Location, location, location. Transportation choices.
Okay, finally, let's zoom out, way out from the individual house to the whole neighborhood, the community. How does where a home is built affect its greenness? It's not just the building itself, right?
Yeah.
It's how it connects or doesn't connect to everything around it.
Exactly. This category, location and transportation, really captures that idea that a home isn't an island. It exists within a larger ecosystem, both the natural one and the urban one. A truly sustainable home tries to minimize its impact not just on its own lot, but through the lifestyle choices it enables or encourages for the people living there.
Right, so thinking about those lifestyle choices, especially transportation,
Hmm.
how does LE encourage less driving, less car dependence? What specific things does it look for in terms of where a project site is located?
Well, a key way LE does this is by awarding points if the home site is located within a certain walking distance of good public transit. To earn that point for access, the project has to be located within a half mile, that's about 800 meters, of a qualifying public transit stop, like a bus stop with regular service or a train station.
A half-mile walk. Okay, that's pretty specific, very tangible. It's not just about convenience, though, is it? This seems to raise bigger questions about how we design our towns and cities. What are the broader ripple effects of building homes near transit?
Oh, it absolutely raises those bigger questions about urban planning, about creating truly sustainable communities. Having good transit access directly encourages people to drive less. That cuts down on emissions, obviously, but also traffic congestion, the need for massive parking lots. It supports a lifestyle where walking, biking, and taking the bus or train are actually viable, easy, attractive options, not just something you have to do. It's really about building homes in places that support a more sustainable, healthier, and frankly, more connected way of living. It acknowledges that a home's environmental footprint isn't just contained within its walls, it extends out into the daily routines it shapes for its occupants and its role in the whole urban fabric.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you a whole new lens, maybe a more informed way to look at the spaces we all live in. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into LEED AP Homes. We hope you feel a little more clued in, maybe even a bit inspired to look for these green principles out there in the world and to appreciate all those invisible layers of thoughtful, sustainable design.